Yes.
Because we have a term limit, all we have to do is vote them out.
That's right.
So the problem I have is like Andy Dillon is a Speaker of the House.
Yes.
And it's only his second term. Well, the problem is it takes you one whole term to learn the system once you get to either Lansing or Washington. How do you account for experience then?
I will agree with you on the fact that our best term limits are the ballot box. I agree with you on that. But if I may, I disagree with you that it takes one term to learn the system. When you get elected, because I used to be in the State House, I was in the State House, boy, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, served in the Michigan House for 3 terms, the maximum under term limits, which I agreed with. And when you get elected, you actually go through a process where they train you up. They teach you how your office is run, how a bill becomes a law with the Legislative Service Bureau in Lansing and so forth. And it's basically a week-long process. And if somebody can't figure it out in 1 week and understand it, then they shouldn't be there. But they actually don't, legislators don't write the bills. Gary Peters doesn't write the bills, we don't write the bills. We actually have a staff of attorneys or groups that actually, for your caucus or a nonpartisan staff of attorneys, like in Lansing, for example, it's called the Legislative Service Bureau, where you come up with an idea and you send it to them, and then they draft the specific section of the law. They tell you exactly where it fits in, how it works, and they write the bill, and then they give it back to you. And you then offer it up for co-sponsorship to your colleagues. So actually, legislators don't write the actual the legalese.
But they're responsible for their part.
They're responsible for coming up with the idea and sending it to the Legislative Service Bureau. Like in Lansing, they send it to the Legislative Service Bureau and they draft it for them.
And then you have to...
They can redraft it.
You then have to talk to the people who are in charge of the other parts. And if you don't agree with them, then...
It goes to once you have that bill, you ask for, you can open it up for co-sponsorships, which means to go to other colleagues and ask them to sign one bill or another. And then basically after they sign this bill or co-sponsor it, then you send it to the committee. You turn it into the clerk of the House or the clerk of the Senate or the presiding officer of the Senate, and then they basically send it to the leader's office, and the leader's office sends it to the committees. So that's I agree with you on the process that elections should be term limits, but we have a 24-hour news cycle. We have money involved in politics where it shouldn't be involved. Money exchanging hands for votes. I mean, the healthcare vote and what my opponent did with the healthcare vote, how he lied to us, and how a day after he got back home, Joe Biden showed up throwing him a $1 million fundraiser. It's tough. It's tough. Here's what happened, and let me just tell you, this will bite me also. It will bite all candidates, and it will bite all candidates from the perspective that term limits will affect everyone equally. And I'm not saying that term limits at the federal level right now should be instituted because it would be a constitutional amendment or it would require all the states to have equality. But let me show you what happened. And Paul, I hope you're taping this because Gary needs to hear this because I'm very, very frank with him on this one. So let me tell Gary Peters exactly what happened here. Gary, you wrote letters to people. How many of you wrote letters to your congressman during the health care bill? Okay, many of you have. Can I ask, ma'am, sir, you sent the letter?
Yes, I sent one to Gary Peters, and he didn't answer me until I wrote him another letter and said that my former congressman always answered my letters.
That's funny because I never got answers from him. But here's my question, sir. In the letter, did you get any response?
I got a form
letter, okay.
Finally.
In the form letter, because I've got one as well, in the form letter, did it say that he had not made up his mind?
Yes.
Okay.
He didn't address any of my
Focus on
questions
this.
either.
Gary, are you listening? Or Paul? Make sure he gets this. He said he did not make up his mind. This is something that you can't run away from, Gary. You said you didn't make up your mind. And then you said you didn't make up your mind till Friday. The vote was on Saturday. Now follow me on this. On Friday night, if you watched any news from MSNBC on the left to Fox News on the right. They all had a list, about 40, I think it was about 43 people that were undecided. Gary, your name was not on that list. And that list came from Nancy Pelosi's office. So either he was lying to us, or he was lying to Nancy Pelosi. Now keep following me on this. Here's where it gets better. The plot is thickening. I don't think he lied to Nancy Pelosi, because the evidence is clear that on Saturday he voted for the bill. On Sunday he came home, and on Monday Joseph Biden was throwing him and Mark Schauer a $1 million fundraiser for their political campaigns. Furthermore, Gary, you know this to be fact. You took contributions from Nancy Pelosi to the tune of like $28,000 or whatever it was. You took contributions from the man of incredible integrity, Charles Rangel. You took contributions from Steny Hoyer. You had this fundraiser on Monday right after the bill. And then, how many of you received letters after the vote? Okay. Sir, do you remember what the letter said, the form letter said after the vote?
I received my first promotional item.
Oh, okay, you got a promotional item.
A personal letter.
Sure. Okay, well, there were letters that went out. Did anybody get a letter about the health care bill? No? Well, I've got that one as well. So it's kind of written in your letter, Gary. And I'm talking to the camera because Gary is taping this today. Here's the deal. You wrote in the letter that after carefully reviewing the bill and reading the bill, and hearing constituents tell you that this is the way Oakland County should go, you voted for this bill. Well, our campaign participated in a group activity called Read the Bill Project. And to read the bill, this was a 24-hour project, and it took people every 20 minutes, they had a new person coming in to read the bill. It took them 3 days and 2 hours to read the entire amount of pages of the bill. So Gary, I don't know how you did it in 1 day or less than a day, unless you took the Evelyn speed reading course, and that's Evelyn Woodham. Speed reading course is pretty good, but I don't think you did that. So number one, you didn't read the bill, and number two, from walking door to door and hearing from people and seeing how he's campaigning right now and how scared Gary Peters is to win back re-election, I can tell you flat out right now that he lied to us and not to Nancy Pelosi. And that to me, and as I told Gary when he asked me, because I introduced my wife to you at the auto show, and my wife met him and Colleen, and I've known Gary for a long time. And he asked me why I was running, and I said, you lied. You sold out and you lied. And I couldn't care less if you were a Republican or a Democrat. You sell out, you lie, you don't belong there. We had enough of politics. So I hope I answered